Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of MGR Unplugged. Today, I'm joined by Bjorn Bengtsson. Bjorn is a very talented young man. He's only 19 at the time of this recording, but when you listen to him, you will notice right away that he's not your typical 19-year-old kid. Bjorn is an artist. Bjorn is also a very deep thinker, a philosopher in disguise, and when you combine these two, great things happen. I had a great time interviewing him and getting to know him a little more after each of his answers. He's a very, very eloquent person, and he actually answers every question with very, very thorough, deep thinking information and thought out answers. I really enjoyed interviewing him, and I hope you do the same. Let me know what you think. All right, Bjorn, welcome to the show. I've known you for a few weeks or months actually now, and I'm very impressed by the kind of things that you do. You're a very talented young man, and I wanted to have you on the show. And obviously, you and I speak all the time, and we see each other almost every day. But I wanted to start by asking you to introduce yourself a little bit and just tell the rest of the listeners who you are, what you do, where you were born, a little background about yourself. I know you're very young, you're 19, 20, so obviously you don't have a huge life story, but it's important to know, just where you come from, a little bit about your background.
Yes. So, I'm Bjorn Bengtsson. I am an artist, and currently, and how I know you is through making lattes for you down at where you been at the coffee shop, and I've lived here in Phoenix, Arizona my whole life. I was born in Mesa. Both my parents, they are engineers. So I don't know how they had an artist. It's kind of funny. But then I've got a younger brother, and these days I am entirely immersed and in love with my art, and it's almost hard to think outside of that. It's all encompassing for everything I do.
That's good. So you just said your both of your parents are engineers?
Yes.
What kind of engineering?
My dad is I believe is a mechanical engineer, and my mom is an electrical engineer.
Okay, so that's quite a contrast, because obviously you like art.
Yes.
And the kinds of things that are completely opposite of engineering. Engineering is all very accurate math and science. And what attracted me about you is that you actually like art, photography, and abstract and application of, your artistic skills, which is not what an engineer will do. So, when did you realize that you went that way, basically?
Yeah, I think you're right. In that sort of engineering mindset, there is a fixed position in how things should be done, and you're working within many boundaries. And for me growing up, it was those were quite strict, and I was okay being in those for a while, and then I guess something kind of just bubbled up within me, and I found that I feel both those mindsets within me, where it's like this dualism, this tear, where one is very intellectual and very it would be that engineering mindset, and the other one is the artistic mindset. Mm-hmm. It's like intellect and emotion, and it's kind of like maybe like a horse with two heads. It's like, yeah, it's like trying to go and like carry me, and it's going two ways. And what I have to do is find a balance between those. Where, like with my art, for example, I will set boundaries for myself and then immediately try to break out of them. Once I find myself within a style, I'm immediately trying to break out of it and grow into something new.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. So when you were at school, I'm talking like middle school, even high school. How soon did you realize that you had this kind of attraction towards art? And
okay. Yeah, I can't remember doing art though. Yesterday, I found some work from when I was in first and second grade.
Wow, that's early.
It's beautiful, really. I never knew it existed until yesterday when I'd found it, and even that was inspiring for me to see, because I was able to step into my mind in being a child and try to capture that here and now. But in high school, there was a girl that I really liked, and I we sat next to each other in class, a couple classes. I'd give her gum, and she would like draw on the gum wrapper and then give it back to me, and then she'd give me gum, and I'd draw on the gum wrapper.
Oh, really?
Like, go back and forth like that. So I'd be drawing on like gum wrappers, and I've got about, I don't know, maybe like 50 of them like in this bag, and I'd put them up in my room at one point. But I mean, it started, as far as drawing goes, I remember it starting there, and I would always be drawing in my notes, just filling all the margins of like every single note page to just filled with drawings of like faces and ideas and words that were prominent and spoke to me and out of me. Yeah.
So with this kind of artistic background or appeal that you had, how do you do with the like with math and science and chemistry and all the other subjects? I mean, do you just kind of had to do them, or do you like them? Were you a good student?
Yes. I see in school, a lot of those things are filtered through how we're taught in the classroom. Like I had to take an online math class, and that was no fun, but it's because of how the class is set up. I actually love math, and more so when it involves physics. Like I was studying Gödel for a while, or Gödel, and his incompleteness theorems, and like studying those. And then I had bought some books on Einstein and just like studying there, and the idea of like relativity in space, because I even use that in my paintings. And I had taken a physics class to like go deeper into that, because it is something I enjoy, and I purpose it all through my art. So even something is not simple but complex is the idea of like the curvature of space, and like I don't even understand it really, but a lot of the things I paint I don't understand. So it's taking those and bringing those to the canvas and seeing what would be revealed. So
jumping ahead to like real time today, I know you are at ASU now, Arizona State University, and you're a philosophy major. So where did philosophy come to your to place? I mean, I know obviously you would discuss the appeal that you had to art and drawings and everything else, and so did you find like philosophy was also attractive to you as far as finding the questions about life and where we come from and humanity and all that stuff? Is that what attracted to you?
Yes, I think that art and philosophy they're intertwined. They feed into each other. For me, I can remember being young, laying in bed way into the night, just thinking, and the idea that had grasped me then and kept me up was I started with myself and where I was. I was like, okay, I exist. I'm right here. And then I was like, okay, where did I come from? And I like followed that further and further back, my parents and their parents. I'm Swedish. That's where my name comes from. And then just like, going further and further back. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, like it had to have started with God. And I'm this little kid laying in bed, and I'm like, it started with God, and everything else came out of him and has flown out of him since. But like, where did he come from? And then I got in this like loop, and I was like, I couldn't go further back, and it kept me up. And then so like those ideas of where we do come from always interested me. And growing up in a Christian home and going to church and loving that, I think that a lot of religion today is very intellectual, so it ties in with philosophy. And lately I've been more so focused on how I feel the presence of God, and not so much what I know about him. And in searching for what I know, that tied into philosophy, and it started with a guy named Alan Watts. I would like listen to his videos, and there's one on it's called What Do You Desire, I believe, and it had inspired me to break away from that intellectual engineering mindset that I had grown up in and find something that I actually do love, something that I feel passionate for, and that inspires me to develop myself and to grow into just to bloom.
So since you grew up in an engineering parents' house, did they have any influence, or did you feel any pushback or anything, or they were totally just letting you do whatever you wanted? How was the feedback when you told them, I want to go to ASU and study philosophy?
It was, my parents are very open.
That's good.
And they were okay with it.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, that's good. No, that's what we're supposed to be. I mean, I mean, sometimes kids feel like I know in some cultures, like Asian, Indian kids, they feel like the parents always push them to go to medical school or engineering or things like that. It's like a tradition, and then I mean, sometimes you just want to do something different. So I'm glad that was the situation with you, because I really agree that every person should just be able to decide whatever they want to do. Regardless of what kind of environment they come from. So all right, so you studied philosophy, and then do you find, when you started actually going to school or to college, did you find that when you started studying philosophy that was what you expected, or you found yourself like you were a little bit boxed into a certain type of philosophy that is not like what you expected? Or maybe studying philosophers that you don't really agree with. Obviously, philosophy is a very wide spectrum of people and stuff. So, philosophers from all eras and thoughts and everything else. So, how do you find the experience once you went to college?
Yeah, I'm always doing studying of my own. I'm always reading. I'm always studying. So whenever I'm going to school, for me, I'm not necessarily going there to be taught, but to teach myself and to have people like open doors for me where I can find new channels that I can go down and teach myself through. So for me, the first year that I've had there it's been as far as philosophy goes, it's been good, but I don't like to stay in. Like I said, I feel this dualism within me where it is intellectual and it is emotional, and it feels dry when it's entirely intellectual, and it's very loose when it's entirely emotional, and it's about finding the in-between, where they're both pushing me forward in the middle. So there it is entirely intellectual, and any speaking of emotion or intuition is often seen as just unintelligent, and that's something that I find lacking, but can find for myself in art.
Will you say that because you studied with philosophy and then you found all these ideas and thoughts from former philosophers, that you had to find a way to express yourself, and then you found that art was the best avenue for you to do that? Yeah,
so my first semester there, I'd been drawing like crazy.
I noticed that because I remember when you first started and you were doing a lot of reading, which obviously is philosophers' books and everything, and then you started shifting into the drawing, like it was like an avenue for you to express everything that was in your mind. Like you had to like do something, and normally people either write or draw, and you went to a drawing side.
Well, I was doing both. You
were doing both.
At that time I was writing. Well, I was writing a lot of poetry, and then I went through this one period where I've got this one book that I wrote in, and it was a very dark and unknown period for me, where I was forced to go very, very deep within myself and to find something that was true, and it was constant searching, and that was primarily through writing, and but I was also drawing as well. So I'd been drawing, and then there was in writing, like I said, and there was this girl that I met like the first night being there at ASU, and I was hanging out with her for a few days, into the semester, and then I don't know, one night I think I wanted to impress her or something, so I was reading her some poetry that I had written, and then it was in one of these little moleskin notebooks, and we're like flipping through it together. We're sitting there, and I get to like some drawings, and she's looking at it, and she's like, you're she's like, "You're an artist, Bjorn."
Right.
And I'm like, no, like what are you talking about? And she's like, "No, like you're an artist."
Yeah.
And I was like, shut up. and she's like, "No, like you need to say it. Like say you like I'm an artist." So she had me say it and then like repeat it and
That's
repeat
good,
it,
that's good.
and to the point where I was almost yelling.
So this was a girl that was in college with you, in
Yes,
class?
yes. And through that,
That was trying
opened
to
up huge
extract
doors.
the juice out of you, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so that happened. And then I was about to turn 19. So I hit my 19th birthday, and I had some money together, and I went to Jerry's Artorama. It was like the only art store I knew near me. And I like walked around there terrified. And
Like a kid in a candy store with all these...
the place is huge.
I know, I know.
And especially your first time in there. So I'm walking around, and I end up with a few canvases, some acrylic paint, some brushes.
Did you even decide what kind of painting you were going to do? Like watercolor, oil, or pastels or anything?
No, I was like it was like there was like some ethereal like string that was just tugging me there, and then walked me around the art store, and then was like, "You need to get this, and then you need to grab that." And I was like almost in a trance, and then I get it, and I get back to my dorm, and I didn't want to see anybody that day either. It just didn't feel right, so I spent that whole day and that night alone, and I just ended up painting for the first time ever on my 19th birthday. And I remember there's a writer, Patti Smith. She wrote that her mother had told her that what we do on our birthday is indicative of what we will be doing for that following year. So that's what's been happening. I've just been painting mad.
That's awesome. So yeah, I think I've seen obviously a lot of your work. We recently just launched a website for your for all your work to be displayed.
It's beautiful.
It's bjornbengtsson.com, and we'll have all this in our show notes as far as the spelling of his last name is Swedish background, right?
Bengtsson.
Very very Swedish, Bengtsson.
Quite Swedish.
So obviously that's because you have a Swedish background, which is your third generation here.
Yes.
Your grandparents were Swedish.
Great grandparents.
Okay.
There was one painter in my family, my great grandpa. He had terrible arthritis, and so he had to hold one hand. He had to hold a brush in one hand and then hold that hand with his other hand, and then like dab paint, like almost like pointillism kind of thing. And he did nature scenes, and they're really quite beautiful. He's the only artist besides writers. My aunt is a writer. Huge inspiration for me.
Okay, all right. So when we created your website, and this is the MGR agency site, I noticed that you have a good variety of talents as far as you have photography as well, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I see that you have a big affinity for portraits. You like so normally when people paint, they paint either landscapes or still life, like things on indoors and tables and desks and kitchen and food and things like that, or they do a lot of portraits and persons basically. So it looks like you have this ability to do, or actually affinity to do portraits too. Is that where your major attraction is, like doing more portraits than landscapes, or you're pretty much open?
Yeah, that's just what happens when I go to paint. And it's really all about eyes. The only reason I paint faces is for the eyes. Sometimes just a single eye. That's everything.
Is this like you look at people and then you can try to see behind their eyes, behind what they're thinking themselves, and trying to reflect that with the paint or with the painting that you create?
Yeah, and people tell. I mean, the body never lies. It's its own language. It's always speaking, and if you're tuned into what eyes are telling you, what people's eyes are speaking to you, I mean, that's how you learn the most about a person. There's no lying there, and that's an intuition. It's a feeling. Yeah, I've fallen in love with eyes, and that drives everything. I start with the eyes when I do a portrait, and everything else just circles out and around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have two eyes for a reason. One is for looking in, and one is for looking out. We have like an inner eye and an outer eye. And for me, that's something that I try to capture. You see in some pieces, it's not necessarily that I try to capture it. A lot of it just happens. It really just happens. And
and then on the opposite side, when you do landscapes, like you've seen a few, and they're actually, and then you also have some abstract paintings that I really like. In fact, I have one that
Spirit.
I have hanging from my living room that is beautiful, and I'll put a picture as well. But are those just like all of a sudden you just basically have the inspiration to do something different? Or it's like your mind just telling you, okay, today I'm going to create this, and then you just use the brush as your tool to express yourself?
Any abstract piece, I mean, names are a whole other thing, but any piece that you would call abstract is almost entirely unconscious for me. I go to the canvas with no intention but to really echo everything that is reverberating inside me, and what flows freely out of that is, you may call it abstract. For me, it's a feeling, and that one that you have, I've called the spirit, and for me, it's powerful.
What from I see a little bit of influence from obviously some of the painters that are famous worldwide, but before I start naming my own names or the people that I think are inspiring you, why don't you tell me, I mean, what painters from the past or even present inspire you the most, or you relate yourself more
to? Van Gogh.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly the one I was going to say.
I love Van Gogh.
Yeah, I mean, to everybody, if you go to his website, again, it's bjornbengtsson.com, and again, it will be on the show notes. He has a lot of portraits, and if you're a fan of Van Gogh, I mean, he does have that style. It's very nice, and people think that it's easy to replicate that, but it's not, and it needs to come naturally. And he does have a few that really they capture the style very nicely. So, So is that one of your favorites?
Yes, I find solace in Van Gogh. I find peace in his pieces. I've had times where my mind is just kind of slipping, and I'm just kind of going down the rabbit hole, and I've been in my room like that, and then I've got this huge, just complete works from him, and I see that, and it just instantly grounds me, and I sit there and I sit on my floor where I do everything on my floor. I sit there, I'm just flipping through his pieces for hours, sitting staring at individual brush strokes, and entirely caught up in he has very reverent just awe of nature and how God speaks to us through nature, and he captures that through his pieces. There's a movement, there's a breath in it, there's a spirit in it. And I learned this the other day, that in Hebrew, spirit translates literally to wind or to breath. And right when I had heard that, I was like, or when I read it, I was outside. It was raining, and it was beautiful out, and it was as if God had breathed in his breath. Just was this wind that just shot down my spine and sent chills throughout my entire body.
Wow.
It was beautiful, but it's capturing that movement, that essence, the breath of nature, and you see that in people as well. There's a flow of a face. I think it all flows out of the eyes. Yes.
So obviously, like you said before, you go to school. You also work at a coffee shop that I know of. I'm not sure you have any other jobs out there. But what is your typical day? I mean, what is a typical day in Bjorn's life? I mean, right now we're on summer break as far as school goes. But I'm assuming let's just say a normal day when you go actually to school. How do you juggle? I mean, it's just sometimes for me, when I try to do something creative within my line of business, it's very hard to just switch off from the busyness of every day,
Yes.
practicality and everything they need to do just to get your life moving on, and the business and everything else, to say, okay, now I like to be creative for 2 hours. It just doesn't work that way. You need to be creative when your mind becomes creative. So
Yes.
for a person that
It's
like
natural.
you, that actually, and I mean, I have designers on our agency and everything, so I can be creative as coming in with ideas, but I don't have to actually do the work. I have designers that actually interpret everything and do it. But if I were to say, like, I have 2 hours to paint, it's like, okay, well, these 2 hours I'm exhausted, and I just don't have that creativity on a schedule, you know.
Yeah.
So for a person like you, how do you juggle that type of schedule where you go to work and then you come from work and you're probably tired, you go home and you feel like painting, but your mind is just totally toasted? I mean, what is a typical day for you?
Well, I love to wake up early, especially because it gets hot here. I can wake up when it's cool.
So when you say early, what's early for you?
I try to be. For a while, it's around 6 or 7.
Okay.
When I like to wake up, and I will go immediately into. I'll go immediately into doing yoga, and through that, that's me connecting to my body. And if I'm not connecting to my body, then I'm just floating. So I need to ground myself, and I do that through yoga, breathing meditations, and from there I'll go make myself breakfast, do lots of reading, like morning devotions and then other readings, and often I am working or going to school, and even then I'm maintaining a balance of being in an intellectual mindset while leaving space for creativity to flow. So like I said, drawing in the margins of papers in class, like constantly drawing. Sometimes I would just write all over my arms, like with pen, just like words and whatever I was thinking.
Right.
But by the time I get to the end of a day, I feel that I've done the work that I need to do for the day, as far as outside, for the people in that, and I can go into myself. And for me, it doesn't feel like, I think painting and writing is like the greatest work that I can do for myself and for the people. It's the way that I can love other people, the way that Van Gogh inspired me, and brings me peace and brings me solace. That's what I aspire to do through my pieces for the people. And I'm not painting for people. I'm not painting for myself. I'm just painting because I'm in love, and other people can feel that, and that's what speaks to people, and that's what people feel. So for me, I can't help but paint.
Right. So on a typical day, and do you feel more inspiration? First of all, do you actually paint or write or both every day, or sometimes you just don't do anything?
That's another thing. I'm constantly switching mediums too, and that's the way, because I think all creative expression comes from the same source, from the same spirit. So I will be writing. Like I'll wake up, I'll write. Sometimes I'll be driving and a poem will hit me. Like I'll see a sign that says like wet oil, right? And I just feel like this whole surge of words about to flow through me. So I reach and I grab my phone, like I'm driving with my knee, and I'm like,
just careful with that.
Yeah, I know. And then I'm typing I'm typing a painting through that. And like there's one I wrote while driving back from work one night. I love it. It's called Orgasmic Origami. I like that one.
Oh, I like to see that one.
And but what I do is I'll be writing, and then when I feel maybe tired in writing, or that I've been emptied through that, I can switch over to drawing or painting or photography. Like in some days, like the other day, I spent a few hours like trying to get my work out there as far as writing goes, into journals and things like that. And then right after that, I was working at getting pieces out, like little like galleries and hanging up places. I've got 2 places I'm hanging up pieces now, and then that I'm setting up in a few days, and then I go home, and then I'm painting, and then I had an idea. I found these old frames at a garage sale, So I was taking Polaroid photos that I had, and I was collaging them together onto watercolor paper. And then on the watercolor paper, I was drawing like with Micron pen, and then going over the drawings with watercolor paint. And I don't normally use watercolor, but
right.
It was fun. It was fun to try. So I was able to go from painting right into like collaging and doing stuff with frames, like painting on the frame, and then maybe read and write. Yeah, I never know where it's going to take me.
And then the other thing that I wanted to, the other art of yours that I wanted to touch on is the photography, which is also displayed on your website. And you have a beautiful black and white series that is called the Homeless series.
Yes.
And speaking of portraits, it's a beautiful collection of headshots, basically, of different, I'm assuming they're actually homeless people that you run into or you find, in this case, probably more like downtown
people
Phoenix.
I'm friends with, yes.
Are they all from this area?
Yeah, they are all in the Phoenix area.
How do you approach them? I mean, do you just talk to them and say, oh, I'm an artist, I want to take a picture? Or?
I approach them as I'd approach any other person. I just go and sit with them and talk. I'm not really hesitant in talking to anybody, and I found that there's a deeply rooted indifference towards people who are experiencing homelessness. There's people who are experiencing homelessness, and I sought to bridge that barrier through eye contact in black and white, like stark photos face to face with people who are experiencing homelessness. And I did that by going and spending time with them. I'd go into like their home is on the street, and so I'm essentially like taking off my shoes, like sitting down in their space, in their home, and I would get to know them. Like there's one guy named Jim. I'd go there like maybe like a few times a week, and we just sit there and talk for hours and hours and hours, and it's cause
how do you find their reaction or acceptance of you when you go there? Are they all friendly? Are they like leave me alone or
no.
or how does that go?
They're friendly. I mean, as long as you are friendly, and as long as you're friendly, people are friendly back. So we would sit, we'd talk, I'd get to know them, we'd become friends. Eventually, I'd tell them that I'd want to share the things that they have experienced. A lot of people tell that through their face. So I would photograph them and bring back a photo for them so they could have it.
Oh, you actually bring it back?
Yeah.
Oh,
brought back a
nice.
photo.
Yeah.
And I was very careful so as not to use them, because like you see photographers who will take photos of homeless people like laying on the street, and the intention was to restore the humanity that was always there, and
but let me ask you,
to allow people to see that more
those
freely.
pictures on your website or that collection, is that for sale? If somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to buy this picture, is that something you will sell? Or
they can buy a print, yes.
Okay, and then do you have any arrangement with the person to say, okay, if I sell this picture, I'll give you a portion of the proceeds, or no, nothing like that? Or like if you sell the picture with a particular homeless person on the picture, do you tell them that you're going to sell the picture, or basically?
I had talked with them, and they made sure everything was okay with them.
Okay.
As far as
you just sell the art, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
And displaying.
Yeah, I mean, I see the pictures, and they are beautiful. The contrast. I mean, it's just. I'm a photography aficionado myself, and I love the pictures. But I imagine for you, there must be even more, because you have the story behind the picture, which is always everything that you relate. When you met the person, the story that they told you, everything, and then you have all that background information around the picture that the normal viewer just sees the final product,
Yeah.
So it must be pretty touching for you to see that picture, so to see those.
It's a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful thing.
Okay. All right. So and then the prismatic that you call, that's pretty interesting. Is that how you say it? Prismatic?
Yeah. That's what I call it.
Those are like tweaked photographies, right?
Yes.
Or special effects, or how do you describe that? I actually never heard of that until until I met you. So, and I know the kind of pictures you have, they're hard to describe, and I actually don't even know how you create some of those, but I'm sure you can tell us.
It's sometimes it's like painting, where I don't even really know how to make some of those photos, but it's
like a double exposure type picture, or
sometimes it's I like to think them as just this coalescence of color where everything is flowing and illuminating within itself, within that piece, within that photo, and it's very vibrant, very colorful, and it's almost the opposite of the black. I mean, it literally is the opposite of the black and white photos that I had done before and been so deeply involved in. And for me, it was very freeing to be in that black and white space and then to break out in so much color. And there's a little writing piece on the website, like all the way down on the About Me area, about that coalescence and that finding that part of me which was almost hidden and like crammed into a corner, like in like a hidden room where I'd found myself there, just flowing and in and out of color, like I imagined it a figure that was entirely made of paint and color, and that was like constantly flowing in and out, like you see like reds and yellows and greens and blues just like coming up, like bubbling up over the body and then going back inside. And it was as if I had like met this figure which was myself and like pulled it into myself and then was able to create from that. So
yeah, I definitely encourage everybody to go to the site and take a look at those. They're very unique, and some of them actually look like paints, but they are photography. So it's a whole different medium, but it's very, very interesting. All right, so I'm assuming all this art, whether it's paintings or photography or anything you on the website that we created, you will start monetizing that at some point. I mean, the goal ultimately is to obviously start earning some money from your art. So, where's your goal in the next? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, as far as where your art and photography and everything is taking you?
I don't know where I see myself tomorrow. It's in
an ideal world, what would you like to be achieving with all this?
I would love nothing more than to continue creating and that to sustain itself.
Is that going to be your full-time? Obviously, everybody, I mean, all the artists and everything is beautiful to become an artist and everything, but you need to make a living, you need to pay bills, you need to live like everybody else. So is that your goal, that you can be financially independent as far as making a full living just with your art?
Yeah, whatever I can do to make it so I can spend the most time with my art, then that's what I'll do. And I would love for it to be self-sufficient. I would love to be able to be selling pieces that would keep me living and keep me buying more and bigger canvases and paints and pay for that time that I can be working and getting in galleries. Looks like I might be heading to Chicago soon, but I'm still uncertain about that. But that's a good door for stepping into that art scene with what I have. I know my work, and sometimes I hesitate in calling it my work, because I feel like a conduit. Like I'm a vessel, and this spirit, the Lord, just fills me, and I breathe out whatever the art may be. So in some sense, I don't even think of it as mine.
Do you find it is easier these days to for artists to display their artwork or their work? Like basically back in the days before internet and all that, if you were painting, you basically could take pictures and people, but it was less. There was less ability to spread your knowledge or your art around the world. And it seems like today, thanks to the internet, websites, social media and everything, everybody can basically show their art and their photography pretty easily or distribute it. But at the same token, I imagine it's probably much more competition there, because everybody can basically do the same thing and also show their art. So how do you juggle that? I mean, I know that you are not particularly active on social media, right? You don't have
I have no social
at least for
media.
now, you're not strong on Facebook or Instagram or any of these mediums. Is that for a particular reason, or you just want to focus so much on art that you don't want any distractions?
I believe that what is meaningful, what is impactful is what lasts. It's not transient. It transcends. So the things that are on social media, they're very fleeting. They come and they go. It's
no, I understand. There's a lot of junk out there. I'm not a very social media person myself, but in your case, I think you will benefit from having an account that is strictly to display your artwork. Like you can put all the paintings that you have beautifully on your phone. I mean, you take great photography of your artwork. You could just upload them to a social media account, like create an Instagram that is strictly Bjorn Bengtsson photography or art or anything, or just your name, and then just put them there, for people to see, and then you don't need to even take comments or anything. It's just as a way to spread your work, not on the social media side, but on the media side, as far as having an avenue for your artwork to be maybe going viral or distributed by other people.
Yes, I believe that what is beautiful and what is made in beauty will last, and I know that's what I'm doing with my work. And when I bring it to social media, it tears a part out of me, and I can't have that. So the work will last apart from social media, and it will influence apart from social media.
Okay. Let me ask you.
But the website is beautiful. I think it.
Yeah, the website. Definitely, I really like it. So no, that's good. I mean, I'm glad that you have that now, and at least it's an easy place to see everything. And then I know you keep updating it every time there is a new piece of art that you develop, photography or anything, you upload it there. So it's pretty easy to
continually being updated.
Have your friends keep up with you as well. And there's also a contact form on the website. So if anybody wants to contact you directly for any reason, they can always fill out the form and just send it to you. So that's pretty useful. Very basic question. What makes you happy today?
What makes me happy today?
These days? What takes you that says, okay, I'm pretty happy with
existing? Just existing, I think is quite happy. There's so much happening always around us. No matter what it is, it's happening, and it's quite happy.
So you're naturally you're a happy person?
No.
What struggles do you have?
What struggles do I have?
Either now or in the past. I mean, what kind of situations bother you or make you feel like you're struggling a little bit?
Well, I may appear to be happy and always joyful, and in some sense I am joyful because, like I said, there's just the beautiful play of life is always happening. It's right now happening, always happening. And I think that's fantastic, and I always bring myself back to that and center myself around what my soul is speaking to me. And I don't know, I'd say the reason that I may appear joyful is because I've spent a lot of time cultivating that. It doesn't just happen. There's some people who are just like happy-go-lucky, but no, I go deep within myself to dig out and find every single thing that is poisonous to me and to other people, so that whenever I am around other people, my solitude, I deeply love solitude, not for the sake of being away from people, but so that I may love people better. I go within myself so that when I am without and in the external world with people, I can love them better because I know my shadow, like I know my evils, and I have confronted them, and there's always new ones, they're always coming, but I sit with them, I give them a space to speak, because it's kind of like children who are just like crying and going like getting all crazy. You have to show them love and show them some attention. So I do that so that when I am around other people, I'm not passing off that to other people. There's a lot that happens in the atmosphere as far as like spirits and how we transfer how we feel to other people. So I'm very intentional as to what I put out to other people, and it's all love.
Do you find yourself that sometimes, well, I know you do, but that you prefer to be alone rather than in a social situation?
Yes.
Like there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Lonely is different. Alone is just a person that is perfectly comfortable with his own or her own thoughts and just basically spending time developing your own mind, So I think, what do you think about that? Is that something that you enjoy as well?
I think that people who are caught up in any sort of crowd mentality are far more lonely than a hermit alone on a mountain. They don't know themselves. They are caught up in the flux of everything that everyone else is doing. They don't know themselves. And it's a strange sense of loneliness and that you don't know yourself apart from other people. You just are this mass of what? I don't know. And for me, I love being alone. It's where I can get the most work done. But it's not necessary. For me, it isn't. Yeah, I don't know. I love to be alone and I love to be around other people, but I do need both. And for me, the way that I'm able to love other people, I'll share a quote. It's from Les Mis by Victor Hugo. It is, to love another person is to see the face of God. For me, it's the innermost parts of me are reaching out to the innermost parts of another person, and that is how I love people.
Okay. Aside from so obviously you're a busy man as far as working, painting, going to school. What do you do when you're not basically doing any of those things? I mean, do you like to sometimes how do you relax? Do you like to be at home or reading a book or watching TV, or what is your leisure time like? Hanging out with friends?
I don't have much leisure time. Like, I don't like to waste time. And for me, I'm always reading. I will, when I'm relaxing, I'm quieting my mind. Sometimes like through doing like breathing meditations, but I don't waste a whole lot of time. Like, I'm either working or I am cultivating growth. So yeah, that comes through reading. Sometimes I'll lay in my hammock and just kind of watch my thoughts from a third person perspective, see where they go, fine tune them. It's constantly like rewiring my brain, fine tuning it. So there's that. I'll do free writes where I'll just let everything that's happening in my mind come out. And
do you enjoy any particular TV shows or movies or anything else? Do you go much to movies?
No, I don't watch any TV or movies.
Nothing. Not even.
I've been meaning to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, but that's been for a couple months now.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I sat down and watched.
Okay.
Anything.
That's probably good. A lot of people spend a lot of time with all these binge watching shows and stuff, and it's just a waste of time. But that's my opinion too. All right. Yes. Anything else? I mean, this has been a great conversation. Anything else you'd like to add that we haven't discussed? What other information about you or insights about you think people will be interested in?
I think that there's so much that's unknown to myself.
It's probably the most you've talked about yourself in a long time.
Yeah. But most can be felt through the art, through the pieces, through the work, through the paintings, the photography, the writing, and I think that's where you can truly know a person.
Good. So
go there.
Where do people can find you? Obviously, they can go to your website, bjornbengtsson.com. And there's Bjorn is Bjorn. Bengtsson is B as in boy, ENGTSSON. Huh? Did I do it right?
Yeah,
okay.
You got it. You got
I
it.
can speak Swedish too.
Yeah,
So anyway, so that's his website, brand new. Go check it out. There's 4 collections there between paintings, oil paintings, and then pastels, and then he has photography, 2 series there, the prismatics and the homeless series. New material is being uploaded as he completes it.
Yes.
There's also a contact form there. You're interested in knowing or contacting him for any reason, please fill it out. Just check it out, just say hi, anything else. He works also at a local coffee shop. It's called Where You Bean, spelled bean as the coffee bean, very very unique. And I go there pretty much every evening after work just to relax myself a little bit, have a coffee, and then just be in a quiet place, just doing my own work and reading. So it's a nice place. That's about it, my friend. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, very good. So thanks for coming out to our show, and for everybody else, this show will be online probably the next day or 2, and then next week I have another guest that I'm going to actually meet with this evening probably, and probably will be recording sometime next week. But until then, have a great day and weekend. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.